Okay, today we're going to do an open Q&A, and then I have a bunch of items for mail. I think you can leave it that way, Don.
Okay.
Most of the slides are big slides. I have a bunch of slides about mail and different opportunities about mail. I've posted these on the discussion group. Some of you may have already seen them. And I posted them on the website, so that for those of you who have computers in your laps, you can download these and follow along, and you don't have to be taking notes and stuff. If you do have any other questions afterwards, we're not going to cover it all because there's a lot of material, but if you do have questions, post them on the website, or excuse me, on the discussion group, and I'll try to answer them for you. So let's start with Q&A. Anybody have open questions?
Yeah, Don Peacock.
Don.
Can you bring up a Safari new window or tab? My question is about, I have favorites on a new tab, but I don't know how to edit the name. I went to edit, and it edits in the bookmark section, but it doesn't edit under the picture of the website.
Okay. Other questions? Really? Only one question today? Go ahead.
Yes, Mitch. In Google Mail, I just started to research this a little bit to complete it. I'd like to know how you can use your own email and domain name that you have, rather than using Gmail, and if there's a price for that.
Okay.
By the way, when I meet our members outside of this meeting, many of them say to me, I feel like my question is too stupid for the group, and that you guys are all advanced users. And that's really not the case. And there is no question that is stupid. So please, when you're here, if you have a question, regardless of how stupid you might think it is, there's probably 5 other people in the room that don't know the answer to it and would be helped. So don't be afraid to ask what some people consider stupid questions. David, you got a stupid question?
I got a stupid question. If I want to erase mail, I have to do it a single entry at a time. Is there any group erase, part A of the question, and part B, if I erase it on my cell phone, can I simultaneously have it erased from my iPad?
Okay. Jerry?
Yeah, the message app, the messages are in a conversation. For instance, I like to have a conversation with my daughter. I like to have a different conversation with my daughter, but apparently you can only have one conversation with a person. Is that true?
At a time.
What?
At a time.
No, he means, I think, 2 separate windows that would come up for the same person.
Right. You can only have one. But you can have one with somebody else.
Oh, yes. Yes, I have multiple conversations that I have.
So you can have you and your daughter. You can have your daughter, you and your daughter and me.
Yes,
You and your daughter and somebody else.
yes.
But you can't have your daughter and your daughter.
But I can't have 2 separate conversations with my daughter.
Right.
Because sometimes we're talking about things that I would like to share with my wife. Sometimes we're talking about things I don't want to share with my wife. That's not good. And it doesn't seem any way to do that.
Use a different app.
Use Snap.
Use WhatsApp or Skype or, you know, Facebook Messenger and the other, you know, and you can use, there's a million apps for messaging.
Suppose he changes her name and creates a separate contact. What determines who the person is? The email address? Or?
Yeah, I think the email address.
So if she has more than one and gave a different name,
Yeah.
wouldn't that work?
Okay.
Or a different phone number.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'd like to know why, when I receive an email...
Your name first, sorry. What's your name?
Name.
Lydia Bond.
Lydia, thank you.
I receive email, instead of bearing my name, they bear the name of Pandora Box or whatever other favorite that I have, and I would like to know why and how do I correct that.
I'm not sure I know how to do that, but we'll work on it.
I'm Ken.
Ken?
The new MacBook Pros, since they all have the solid-state drives, what's the smallest drive you can get until they have to, do some decent amount of work?
I don't know the answer to that.
Depends how many photos and videos you have.
What's the thing? If I go for everything, I'm going to need a terabyte almost, and that's a heavy hit on those things.
Well, you can store this stuff in iCloud and eliminate it.
Other questions?
Peacock again. We determined that you cannot have Siri take a photo. Can Siri, when I walk the dog, I don't have my glasses. And I always have my phone, the camera app is always set to photo. But suppose I want to take a video, and it's hard for me to see the little things on the bottom. Can I have Siri change my phone to take a video, and then change it back to taking a photo with a voice command?
You probably know more about that than I do.
Don, the reference that was made to Siri, that is what Siri is able to do, is to set up the mode of the camera, but it can't take a picture.
Oh, yeah, I just thought of that this morning, but I didn't test it out.
You can set up every mode but the portrait, and, but you still have to press the button.
Yes, it can't do the click, but it can set it up voice-wise to the different modes.
Thank you.
You might need a CNI though.
Bill?
Do we know how long the Apple Store will be closed?
No.
Nobody will know that.
I was told a year by one of the employees.
But is it opening in the same place or elsewhere?
Yeah, it's opening in the same place. They took over the tablet store next door, and they're going to expand it and make it a world-class facility.
Wow. So that's closed then.
So if you have a problem where you have to go to the Apple Store every other day because you need the fix, you're going to have to drive to Coconut Point.
Or New York. Get on a plane, go to New York, get it taken care of at Grand Central Station, and then
Turn around, come home.
come back. Okay, let's deal with a couple of these things. This is a long list of diverse questions. Safari window favorites, how do you edit the name? So let's open Safari. Everybody can see the screen there, right? So we're happy. I'm sorry. I did this so I wouldn't have to deal with the mic. Now you want to do what, Don?
How to edit the names underneath all of those icons.
You want to
If
edit
on the side, I edit it, and on the side, when I go to favorites, it does not have the same name as under the icon.
It does not have the same name as under the icon. That's because the ones under that's because these are different. These are just snapshots, right?
I don't know, they're icons.
No, these are
It's
not
not the
icons.
same
These
view
are
you had earlier.
pages, because you could open a page and you close the page and so on. You edit this guy here, right? And how do we edit over here? You can't right-click it or left-click it.
I don't know, it's hard for me
Who
to
knows,
see.
anybody know the answer to this question?
Go up into the menu bar under bookmarks and edit bookmarks, and then you can get into the favorites, and you can edit the favorite. You can shorten the name, change it to something that makes more sense to you.
So
Okay, I
various
did that.
kinds, bookmarks, edit bookmarks, which is, I guess, how do you bookmark editor, because I'm in the editor. And And then when you're here, you just click on one of these guys, right-click it, and you can make it anything you want.
Right. Can you demonstrate by going back to your page that you initially called up with all the icons and the names under them? Okay, so change the name of one of those. I can't read what it says, but change the name of one of those icons. Demonstrate what you just told me, because I did the editing that Jerry suggested, but it did not change the name of the icon.
So if I want to change this to Paris instead of the Louvre,
But that wasn't the name under the icon. That
maybe
huge
it wasn't
thing.
the name, it said Louvre, didn't it?
Yes.
I don't know, I can't see from back here, but
What's the name on the icon?
And now down here it says Paris, right? That guy right there?
yeah, so go back to the other page and show me that it changed.
Click on the editors.
Yeah, click on the URL.
No, I wanted to go back to the page with all the icons
Safari.
and tell me that he has changed the one that he just
I don't know
changed.
why, I don't know why,
A new tab, it would depend on your settings right here. So did it change?
Scroll up.
No.
Louvre still says Louvre here.
I don't
So
know.
that-
What I was describing is, I don't use the favorites as icons, I have them as tabs across the top.
Right.
And
No, right, I know you
But
can
it doesn't
change
change
that.
it here.
That's easy to do.
It doesn't change the tab here,
No.
either, right? You can't change this page either. Because this is the website URL, right? This comes
Right.
from URL. This is our stuff. So Don, the answer is no, live with it.
Thanks.
I don't know what else to say, you know? So the answer here is edit bookmarks. Right? All right, Gmail, how do you use your own email name and is there a price? The answer is no, there's no price. It doesn't cost you anything to do that. You just, when you sign in, for example, I have my own, I have Marty at martydorio.com or Marty at dorio.us. You just sign in as if it's a regular account. If you're going to use your Gmail account, or you sign in as a new account with your Marty at martydorio.com and put in your server information and you can do it. It's just like it's just like using another account.
Okay,
But my email comes to my Gmail client, or it comes to my web thing under that address. Am I answering your question?
Well, provided nobody else has the same name.
That's true, because that's why I have Marty Dorio myself.
Well, I had mine set up with GoDaddy.
Okay?
Never used it for various reasons, didn't like it, although it did improve significantly over the years. And I let it lapse, but I still own the domain name
Okay.
and everything with it. So is it just, even though that email with them has lapsed, and that account is no longer active, do I just go in with that same email and my old passcodes in Gmail and just sign in?
You could try that. My guess is it won't work that way.
Okay.
But what GoDaddy now offers is Office 365, and it will let you use, like, for example, both my personal emails are now on GoDaddy. They're GoDaddy emails, but they go through Office 365, which means they're Microsoft, literally Microsoft emails.
They charge you a pretty penny for that, don't they?
No, it's included in the domain as long as you're registered to the domain name.
Oh, my domain's registered with them.
Yeah.
I went to the next
And,
one.
I mean, if there is a charge, it's so small that you don't, it's.
I'll give them a call, and then
Yeah,
once
that's
that's
what I do.
activated, I can go ahead and go into Google and,
Yes.
okay.
Or, if you want to do it, I'll help you with it.
Okay. Thanks, Mark.
How do you erase mail in a group? Now, there was a nice example of this on the discussion group recently. Does anybody remember where that was? The discussion group had a,
Yeah, I posted something on how to do that on an iPad and an iPhone.
how do you go to the edit and, I think you did it, right?
Yeah.
So I would search there. That's the easiest way to get,
No, but
if you delete them all.
David again, when you go to edit, it brings up all the files. I can edit, let's assume I want a file named Robert, okay? It'll bring up 50 Robert emails. I can now delete them one at a time. I want to delete everybody named Robert, and I cannot do it.
Well, for example, here, this is your mail client, right? This is my Apple Mail.
Right.
And I just searched for Ruben.
There, in the upper right there where it says
Ruben. So these are all my Rubens,
Right.
right? Now, if I want to delete them on my Mac, I just pick the top one, I pick the bottom one, and then I hit delete, and they go away.
Okay, that takes care of eliminating it on that machine.
Right.
What happens to the iPad when you do that?
If you have IMAP, which all these emails are now IMAP, they will be deleted here and on your phone.
iMac, did you say?
IMAP is the mail format. It's the mail.
Oh, okay.
Almost, unless you're on AOL.
Unless you're on Naples Freenet.
Or, yeah, some of us are still on Naples Freenet, and then you should change.
But if you
How much-
have Gmail,
If it's a pop account, it will not go
Right.
away.
Marty, can't you do a Command A?
Yeah, sure, same thing, sure. Command A does the same thing, right? And then you just hit delete. I don't want to delete these because these are George's and I treasure every one.
All 300.
but if you wanted everybody named Robert and there was more than one Robert, you would select, Robert Smith, and you would get all of his and delete it the way Vince showed you.
Or
Then
you can do it by account. I mean, on the left side here are various accounts, right? If I wanted to just pick the things that are in secretary and delete it, I could just click that account and delete these.
Yeah, then you delete everything.
Same way. Right. Sorry, say it again?
If you do that, you delete everything in an account.
Right. I'm saying if you wanted to have nothing there, you could do it. Right.
Thank you.
If that's the case, Marty,
With IMAP,
if that's the case, then you can create an account called delete
Yeah, sure.
and just transfer into that account everything and then delete the account.
Yeah, there's lots of ways. I mean, but the idea of being able to delete more than one mail at a time is pretty straightforward, especially on a Mac. Right? Message app, I think we talked about this, right? You can only do one at a time. Receive mail, how to change the name that appears. Is this mail that's I think you had a question, right? Is this mail that's coming to you from somebody else?
From anybody that arrives on Comcast, also on Gmail, instead of saying addressing the email to Lydia Bond, it addresses me as Pandora. Because I do listen to Pandora on my computer. And so I don't know how that got transposed, and I don't like it, and I want to change that.
Yeah, it's really from the previous recipients list. It's very strange. I have this problem in my mail. When you click mail, you see up at the top it says the menu bar has message, format, and window.
No, we don't see that.
You
It's a
don't see
little
that
light.
because of two items. Okay. Well,
We don't see the menu bar.
Once it's up at the top, it says window, and then here it says previous recipients. This previous recipients is how your mail gets the name when it's received to you. So as an example, I have Jerry King in there as president of Naples Mug. And I have George Rubin in there as president of Naples Mug. And very often I see Jerry King's name on a mail that comes from George, because he's still in the previous recipients. So I discovered this way. So you have to go into previous recipients and take that out. You can either take out one of them or take out all of them, and it sort of wipes it clean. The other place it comes from is your address book. In Jerry's case, he was in my address book as president of Naples Mug, and with the email address, and George is in my address book as president of Naples Mug, and it goes and it looks and it says, I can't do this. So you have to clean up both your address book and the previous recipients list.
If you eliminate all the previous recipients, does that cause any problem?
No, because the next time you write to her, it says George Rubin, president, blah, 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 or George Rubin at Comcast.net, and it goes in and again and fills the list.
Yeah, but this was not a name. It's a radio station, Pandora radio station, and I had never, it was not on my contact list. But I did sign up for it to listen to the music.
Yeah, so it's just from, it's what I'm telling you happens. It comes from this place, previous recipients, and somehow you get a list. It creates a list of names. So for example, on my previous recipients, here's Jerry King, and Jerry King, he has two, and then there's nothing here, right? So you might have some place where Pandora is associated with your email address, for example.
It used to be that list of names seemed to be only people that you had sent an email to. Now it also seems to be picking up addresses and emails that are coming in. For instance, I have a group called Friends, and I get emails from the Friends of the Library. I don't send the Friends of the Library email, but now they're showing, both of them are showing up in my previous recipients. So it used to be just the people that you sent messages to. Now it is starting to pick up people that are sending you messages.
But it's true that you could delete them all, and it does not, the only thing is the next time you wanted to send an email to George Rubin would not come up. You'd have to, continue typing.
No. It comes from in your to field, it comes from the address book, and you type in George, it will show you all the Georges in your address book.
Right.
So it's not any, it's a little bit more work because you might have 22 Georges, but
Right.
once you do it the first time, then it's there. Bill?
That's what I was going to ask. Does that affect your autofill?
Yes.
You have to type it all in
Yeah.
for the first time?
The first time.
But again, your autofill comes from your address book
Right.
and this previous list. Right? And to take somebody off this previous list, you see down here it says remove from list. So you just pick somebody you want to remove and you click it and boom, they're gone.
Or you can do all, can't you?
Or, yeah, you can do the same as we always do. You hold it down and you select a bunch of them and delete them. And if that doesn't work, write to me and I'll work with you.
Thank you.
MacBook Pro, what's the smallest drive to do a reasonable amount of work? I think the MacBook Pros come now, the minimum is a terabyte. So if you're going to buy one,
Not a minimum.
can you buy 256?
They still show them.
Okay. So, that's the minimum.
That's what they have, so is that good enough for?
Well, it depends upon
That's what you're going to do and how much other stuff you have. I mean, this is 256. I do everything in my life on it. My phone's 256. I have 20 million pictures and 200 videos. So, and I have iCloud, which backs me up a terabyte or OneDrive, a terabyte. So there's lots of free drives out there with free storage.
Marty, Mitch,
Go ahead.
a good way to gauge that is if you have an existing machine, see how much memory you're using.
No.
Well, that's my problem, we use it a lot.
Well, are you using iCloud or any of the other off?
No, so it's so old, some of the iPod stuff can't be put up into it, so that's what I'm trying to, it's an old 2009 MacBook Pro, I want to upgrade it, but that's what I'm trying to figure out now.
Okay, so let's talk a little bit about mail. I made some slides, as I said at the beginning of this, and I just thought I'd just talk us through some things to get, sorry, I keep changing my glasses. Try to get people's language a little more comfortable with language, and then we'll deal with any other issues or questions. Basically, all mail offerings do the same thing, right? I'm sure you all know this, but I just want to make it clear to you. What's mail? What's a mail application or a mail on a browser do? It queries the server somewhere to see if you have mail, right? It eliminates some spam and some junk mail. Most people don't realize that, but most good providers will eliminate spam before you get it. They do. There's lots and lots and lots of spam, right? They pick your mail in some form and then say, you've got mail. We all remember AOL back when this whole thing started, right? It will let you compose mail and add the attachments or media, send it to the server for distribution to others, and then file it somehow. And that's what we've been talking about here. How do I file? How do I get it? Where do I get it from? Where do I take it to, right? And everything revolves around servers. What's a server?
Computer with a lot of disks.
Computer with a lot of disk storage, right? It's usually a big room. They used to be acres and acres and acres. Now they're just acres. It might be a couple of thousand servers in one room, air conditioned, and a couple of others somewhere else, right? Because they got to be backed up. It's rule-based, because the servers are the gatekeepers, right? When I send an email to somebody, what happens? I put Bill's name on it. The computer doesn't know Bill. The computer knows that it's going to go to some address like verizonmail.com or .net or Apple Mail or iCloud Mail or whatever, or martydorio.com in the case of my own server. And then it's got to have a rule that says, what do I do with that when I get it? And how do I tell this guy that he's got mail? Or vice versa. How does he tell you that you have mail? So it's rule-based, right? The rules tell it how to handle future mail. We know in Apple Mail, when you tell it it's junk, the next time it sees that, it puts it in junk. So that's a rule, right? And Jerry's taught us a million times probably, make a folder, make a rule, and put it in a folder if you want to put it in a certain place. Right? That's another rule-based system. Right? And the rules tell you how to handle the attachments, especially large size. How many of you have seen on an Apple Mail where it says, do you want to use mail drop? Only a few of you.
Just send.
When you want to send a big mail to somebody and it's too big to email, the typical mail is 15 megabytes maybe. Some Gmail is 25 now. But if it's bigger, then they want to put it somewhere and have the person just download it. So they put it on their server and they say it's coming, it's downloaded, right? So that's how big attachments get distributed. There are two ways to get your mail. How many people know there are two ways? So there's value in this meeting, just here. There's only 4 of you put up your hands. You can use a mail client, or you can use the web and go direct. What the heck is a mail client?
Application.
Gmail.
It's any of those little icon-y things that we have on our iPad, right? When I open my iPad and it shows you the little Apple mail thing, postal thing, that's a mail client. Or the Yahoo little app, that's a client. What's a client? It's a standalone that you download to your device. Right? So almost all of us use a mail client, right? How many of you use Apple Mail? Yeah. How many of you use Gmail? The little red M, not on the web. Little red M? No? How many of you use Spark? Spark. How many of you use Inbox?
AOL.
All right, we have to talk.
Welcome to 1993.
Apple Mail, Google Mail, Outlook, Thunderbird, Incredimail. How many of you remember Incredimail from your PC days? Before you came to the bright white light side. Incredimail was the one that you could put little icons, and before they had all these emojis everywhere, and it was beautiful. Animated mail was just luxurious. I don't know why they never did it on a Mac. It allows you to manage your mail without being connected, right? That's what the whole point of the client is. You don't have to be online. You can sit there and compose all your mail. It sits there in the drafts or outbox folder until you say send. And then when you connect, it sends it. Right? Now let's talk about mail. We have it's a little bit blurry, isn't it? I thought it was my glasses, but it's not. Is there a focus on here? This function is not available. It's not good. All right, anyway, these are downloadable, so you have them all anyway, right? How do I set up mail on the server using a mail client? Now, we've talked about this in various other sections. I just want to show you again. You go to Accounts and Mail Preferences, right? This is Apple Mail, right? You'll have your accounts listed here, where you add it with a little plus. And then you have three choices across the top. The first one is account information, which is the name and so forth and so on, right? For example, here I use Naples Mug. I want to tell you the wrong thing. Yeah, on iCloud. So we have a Naples Mug at iCloud.com email address for the club, right? Mailbox behaviors is the second one. And this is how you decide where you're going to store your mail, right? On a client, you have two choices. You can store your mail on your device, on your iPad, right? Or you can store it on the cloud. You can store it on the server. And when you tell it to put it on the server, it means you don't have it here unless you're connected, right? So some people have big storage usage for mail. And the reason for that is you're storing everything on your device instead of storing it on the server. When you store it on the server, it doesn't stay on your device, it's only on the server, right? Am I being clear? I don't see any heads nodding, yes, no, maybe? Okay. So that's where you do it. For each account, you can make a decision on where you want to put your incoming, your inbox mail, your drafts, your junk mail, your trash. You want to store it on the server or on your device, okay? Sure.
Marty, I've been trying to delete most of my trash. And it deletes, and then 20 minutes later, it's all back.
Comes back. Yeah.
What am I doing wrong?
I don't know, it happens to me too. I don't know. I think it's just a function of the syncing between the server and the device. It's the only thing I can figure out. Because I'll do it and then it'll be back. I was doing it last night. I'm going through, because I get hundreds a day. I'm getting all this mail and I delete it and there it is all back again. I don't know. I haven't figured it out yet. When I get the answer, I'll post it.
Okay, I think it seems to be relatively new in terms of mail. I used to be able to delete my trash. It would stay away.
Yeah, I think
We're talking about trash and mail?
Yeah, trash and mail. Yeah. I think that's, I agree with that. It's relatively new compared to the history we have.
Sometimes what happens when you delete it, you don't delete it from the cloud. And what the cloud does is rebroadcast it back to you. So you need to delete it twice, one time after another. That sometimes eliminates it. Doing a multiple delete of the same information.
Yeah, I think that's right, but the system's not supposed to do that, right? The system says if I delete something, it's supposed to get deleted, except on Gmail, right? Gmail is different, but except for those of us who don't deal with Gmail, it's supposed to delete and go away and then get synced across your devices.
I think it's a new federal law that you can't delete messages.
It could be, they want to see everything we've ever written.
Along that line, if I may,
Right.
all mail is stored someplace. You can never erase mail. It's stored both as actual mail and as metadata. So it's somewhere in the system. You may not see it, but the government can access the mail.
Yeah,
Apple can access the mail.
In general, that's a correct statement. In general, that's correct. And the last thing is, the third tab is outgoing server, and it says here, which server do you want to use as your outgoing server? So when you have a client, you have a mail client, you have control over where your stuff is stored, okay, drafts or inbox or see, I turned my phone off. I didn't turn my iPad off. That's handoff at work, by the way. If my phone has a call and I have handoff activated, it will ring on my iPad or on my Mac if it's my Mac at home. So back to mail. Mail, it lets you control where your stuff is stored and how your server behaves, right? And also, by the way, back to your question, what your thing is called. So I have 14 emails, right? So I can't have Marty Dorio, Marty Dorio, Marty Dorio. I would never know which email I was sending from what. So I put little different descriptors on that first page where I describe what the name of that, back over here, where I have the description. I put in there what's the name of the email that I want to use for that account. So I can distinguish between Marty Dorio Secretary, Marty Dorio Webmaster, Marty Dorio, various things.
Marty?
Right.
Since you mentioned handoff, does handoff happen at the server level or Wi-Fi?
Wi-Fi. I think it's near fields. I think it's NFS because
It's not even
it works
Wi-Fi.
with-
It's
it works without Wi-Fi being on. So NFS is the.
But they have to be in the
latest-
same room then.
Oh, yeah, they have to be close to them too. All right, so that's the first part. I'm sorry, go ahead.
It's a comment about you can't ever erase an email. Can you erase a draft?
Okay. But to his point, even a draft, if you store it on the server, is on the server somewhere. And then because they have the obligation of making it protected for you so you could recover it if something happens, they have to have another copy someplace else. So that's why it sort of perpetuates itself.
So if you have a draft on your own thing, don't use the cloud, and then get rid of the draft, it'll be gone.
Don't use the cloud or connect to the internet while you're doing the draft. Because when I type something on my iPad, right, the way I have it set up, my drafts are stored on the server, not on, they're stored here, but they're also on the server while I'm using it. Right. So, web-based mail. Can I use web-based mail for Apple Mail?
Yes.
Yes.
Can I use web-based mail for Gmail?
Yes.
Can I use it for Outlook? Yes. Can I use it for AOL?
Yes.
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 Yahoo.
So almost any mail that you use a client for, you can use directly on the web. And how do you do that? You open a browser, you need an internet connection, your stuff then is stored on the server usually, and here's a whole list of guys who use web-based mail. Okay? How do I do that? I just go open a browser, I put in there mail.google.com, sign in, and I can do what I'm trying to do. Okay? For example, this is my browser. It's open to Gmail, right? So I go to mail.google.com, I sign in with my username and password, martydorio@gmail.com, and a password. And then I go to settings. And the reason to go to settings is because I only want certain things to show on my browser when I look at my mail. So I can decide here under settings, a little gear, and then click on settings. I can decide what things will show. And on Gmail, they call them labels. They call them labels, but here's a whole bunch of things like all mail. Everybody knows what all mail is, right? Or Gmail. All mail. Everything you've ever gotten, sent, received, spammed, whatever, comes to you. It's all mail. So my all mail has something like 70,000 emails, starting in 2002. So if I ever want to go find something, I go find it, I use the little search bar up there, and I say, Jerry King, and I find everything that Jerry King ever wrote to me. That's 10,000 of my 70,000 right there.
And you can decide, and 40,000 are from George.
I can decide what my labels are, what these little, what look like folders are, but in Gmail, for Google they're actually labels, not separate folders. They don't put them in folders, they get clumped to them. The other tabs up here are the other ways you can arrange stuff for Gmail. Forwarding, autoresponder if you're on vacation, filtering if you want it to go to a certain place other than where it is now. Okay. How about iCloud.com? If I don't have my Apple Mail on my iPad, and I'm in a hotel somewhere and I want to go read my email, how can I do it? I go to iCloud.com, sign in with my Apple ID and password, right? And lo and behold, I get my little icon here, there's my mail. And if I click that, that opens up my mail just like it's at home. This is also how you get the photos and your numbers and pages and all the other things that your calendar, your contact list. It's all online.
Is it going to ask you for your password?
Oh, yeah, sure. Say the difference.
Okay.
Your iCloud password.
Right. Yeah. Sure. You all got that? It's easy, right? Okay, Outlook. I wanted to talk about Outlook a little bit. For those of you who use, how many of you use Office 365?
I have a question
1, 2,
about
3.
that.
Go ahead.
Do you need to have the Office 365 to be able to keep your Outlook address?
No. No. You can just go to outlook.com, right there, and you use your old address. Or if you have a Hotmail address, you can use your Hotmail address. Or if you have a live address, live.com. But they keep changing, right?
I converted from Microsoft projects to Apple.
Okay.
So all of my old documents and stuff were all done in Microsoft.
Mhm.
Because of that, when I went to the Apple, I thought I had to have the Microsoft 365 so that I could open up those old documents. Do I need to continue that? Or if I, it gets costly because I'm not using it other than as a reference at this point.
It depends on what your, it depends.
Have you tried to open up your Word documents in numbers?
In pages.
No.
Pages.
Never, that's what I was just gonna say.
No.
Or your Excel in numbers? Try it.
That'll work.
If you're
I've
in,
done that a lot.
if you're in.
And it works?
Oh, yeah.
So I
that's
don't
great.
need to keep that Microsoft?
Well, that's why I said,
Formatting. But basically,
that's why I said it depends. Just finish the thought, Ken. In our family, my wife is an Excel expert. She thinks in Excel. It doesn't matter what it is, she writes a spreadsheet. And for her, learning numbers was too complicated. So we went and bought Office 2012 or whatever it was, and she uses it. It works fine on the Mac or on the, actually they were free for a while on the iPads and iPhones. So you could have Excel or Word if you wanted to have the native programs. Office 365 bundles them and gives them to you for $100 a year, right? Plus the storage. So there's the pros and cons of that are you get lots of free storage and you can open them and close them in the same way you did before. For me, importing them the way George was just describing, or Jim was just describing, is very straightforward. I could take a document, any Word document or any Excel document or any PowerPoint document, open it in the corresponding Apple programs, and it works fine. And then when you're done, if you want to put it back in that format, you just export it to those formats. So if you have to send it to other people who are still on the Microsoft version, you just send it to them in those formats. So you can do it either way. You can import them into Apple and export, or you can buy the Office 365 and do it. But there's no reason at the beginning for you to convert or to keep maintaining all those programs forever. You know, you can always change them. Jim,
yeah, I just want to say, the only downside of it is I'm not as familiar with pages and numbers as I have, because I work longer with Word and Excel. And so there are sometimes little format quirks in translating them from Word to Pages, but I've never had it fail. I use the newest version of Pages, and some of these documents are probably 15, 20 years old, and I've never had it not open the document and put a numbers or a Pages suffix on it.
That's true.
I just basically started doing it about a year ago when I decided I'm going to take all my Word documents.
The opposite doesn't work. You can't open Pages documents in Word. For some reason, they haven't figured it out yet.
Marty,
Go ahead.
we bought the program and not the 365. Would it operate the same way?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay, I'm sure.
We bought the program first, and now 365 has so much storage attached to it, it was silly not to buy the storage. You know, so I have a terabyte of storage with Microsoft and 2 terabytes with iCloud and 8 terabytes under my desk. So, you know, Library of Congress is stored there. Any other questions before we move on? Couple of comments here. Its Outlook is the most integrated of the 3. So when you think about having mail, Apple Mail, you have to have a calendar, and you have to have the address book. You know, they're all 3 separate things, and they communicate to one another, but they're not integrated. When I'm looking at my calendar, I can't click and find my contacts very easily. Right? I can't. If I'm looking in mail, I don't have a place down at the bottom where there's a nice little task list or a calendar or my contacts. With Outlook, you have all those 3 things tied together, and it's a very, very handy integration. I'm not promoting Outlook here, I'm just trying to draw the comparisons. Part of as part of Office 365, you get a terabyte of storage too, which is very nice. So it's all included. It's about $100 a year. You know, not much downside.
Every year.
Every year.
Marty?
All right. So what's go ahead, Don.
Yeah, is it hassle? I downloaded it, but I've not installed it yet. So then it's going to ask for access to your contacts and all your other stuff, and it imports it into the Office.
Yeah, it's a step, but yes, you just import it into your Outlook.
Thank you.
What's the point of all this? Just understand client and browser. They're not exclusive. You know, the headline was, how can you best use one over the other? You can use them all. You can use them all simultaneously. Outlook is the most integrated, but they all basically do the same things. You know? So for example, because I've been screwing around with email for a while now, I took all my mail from my Apple Mail, and for a while I was using Outlook on my phone, and then on my Mac at home I used Thunderbird for a while, so I could read all three. They all did basically the same thing, but they had slightly different features that for me on the three different devices let me operate the way I wanted on those three different devices. Now, if I didn't want to bother with any of that, I could just use a browser like the AOL people still do, right? Even though it looks like it's an app, but it's really just a browser opening.
AOL has a client too.
AOL has a client now, yeah. But for a long time, they had just a browser that was...
You get AOL through mail.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Your AOL account can come through Apple Mail or Outlook or any of those others. In fact, I have it from all. They all do the same thing.
Marty, question on the Office. If you install it on two different Macs, does your mail sync between the two, you know, like it does on Mail on my Apple accounts?
Yeah, syncing is a function of iMac. Syncing is not a function of your Macs or your devices. So as long as you have an iMac mail, when you do something in one place, it will sync.
No, I know that, but for as far as accounts, if I've set up one computer and now I install it on the other one, is it going to install, is Outlook going to open up and it's got all my mail accounts and then it downloads all?
Oh, no. You have to put them in individually.
Oh.
The question was, I think the question was, what I heard the question to be was, if I put Outlook on this device and I add all my emails, addresses, passwords and all that, and then I pick up my phone and I have Outlook on my phone, do all those accounts appear on my phone? The answer is only when I put them there. Okay.
Thank you.
So for example, on my phone, I don't have all 14 of my email accounts. I only carry the things on my phone that I know people are going to send to me that I need a response, like my business account. My Marty Dorio account is there. But my AOL account, you know, my other ones are just on the other devices.
How do I tell if I have iMac mail?
What kind of mail do you have? What's your address?
It's a Gmail.
And it's iMac.
Okay.
Mitch?
I just feel like I'm always missing something with this because I rarely use any of those other than the Apple one on my computer. I always go to my iPad and I use the app. All my emails from Yahoo and from Google, 2 or 3 accounts, and my Apple mail's there. It's really easy to use. So, So am I missing something? Because every morning, I just go through all my emails right here and it's done, I'm done.
If you're happy, I'm happy.
But the whole point is, why go through all this? If this works and it's all right there, and unlike this, which you just described, when I add an account on here, it goes to all my other ones, I'm pretty sure.
I don't think that's true.
No, you have
Does it go to
to,
my iPhone automatically?
No?
you have to
You have to
install it
add
on your iPhone.
that.
Okay, but what am I missing?
You're not.
You're happy? Okay.
I was doing it. I'll tell you why I was doing it. I was very unsatisfied because, for example, with Gmail, the way they organize the app, I can only show 5 Gmail accounts at one time. Now I have 14. So that meant I had to figure out a different way to look at my other emails if I was going to use my Gmail app.
So how do you solve that problem?
I put them all on Apple Mail on my Mac. And I segregated the ones that I need on my other devices to be small. I don't use the Gmail app for that reason. Right. And then I thought Thunderbird would get me around that problem, but Thunderbird has some quirks of its own. So I didn't use, I mean, it was just trying to figure out how to deal with it. In my situation, I have a lot of different accounts. I had to keep them all straight. I wasn't satisfied, so I did a lot of this hokey-pokey. Go ahead.
How do you tell whether you have an IMAP account or POP account?
What kind of mail do you have?
Outlook.
Outlook is almost certainly IMAP now. Almost certainly. If you mean Outlook.com.
Outlook.com.
Okay. Yeah, that's an IMAP account.
How can I double check that?
Go online and search for is Outlook an IMAP account, and it'll tell you.
But, for example, while we were talking, I opened up mail, and I get my husband's emails because he doesn't do computers. He's in the 18th century sometimes. But when I look at the accounts and try to find some of the things that you had on your screen, if I went to his account, it showed the server as Microsoft 365. When I did mine, it didn't even show me a server. And the two emails don't function the same. If I went to his and I want to delete all of his trash, things that I put in the trash, if I open up trash under his email address, I can hit delete all and they're all gone. I do the same thing in my Outlook account, and I have to go through each and every single one and click them individually.
Because his is Office 365 and yours is Outlook. Office 365 is different. I don't know why Microsoft made it different. It just behaves differently. But I can look at it with you afterwards if you want. Jim?
Jim Corsica. About 6 months ago, I discovered that when I delete an email on my iPad, I have an iPad Pro, it deletes it from my laptop as well, and it works vice versa. But my phone mail account doesn't work that way. If I delete it on my phone, it still stays on my computer and vice versa. So it's nice between my iPad and my laptop.
In your system preferences, do you have, or in settings, do you have iCloud Mail checked?
I don't know.
Do you have an iCloud or a Comcast account?
I have a Comcast account.
Your phone may have been set up when Comcast was popping and it hasn't.
Oh, that could be. Comcast is not converted yet, but it is fully.
I thought they did convert.
Yeah, they have, but they haven't. If you have your old, POP still works, and if you have your old POP, it doesn't erase it.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't behave right.
Is that coming, do you know, by any chance?
I have no idea.
The conversion coming?
I think you can delete the old account, put your new account in, and it'll be an IMAP account.
Sure, I thought.
You might delete the Comcast account on your phone and then reestablish it, and then it will probably come through as IMAP.
Right.
Okay.
But also,
For a while, I had to.
What did you say, Mitch?
Also, make sure everything is on iCloud.
Okay.
For a while, I had an IMAP account and a POP account. I forget for who, maybe it was Comcast. Because you can have them both. They work different servers and everything. But
For the most part, my syncing works pretty good. But there are times when I will clear up my email on my iPad, walk into the computer, and there's 10 more emails. And sometimes they're not. I will
They're the
look,
same emails or different ones?
no, new ones.
New ones?
Yeah, they keep coming.
I don't know, that's what Jerry and I were talking about. Sometimes you delete stuff and then it reappears, and you delete it again and it reappears. I haven't figured that out yet. I don't know why it happens. Jerry?
I have an experience, and Ruth was the first one to mention this. She would look at her emails, and it would disappear. The message would disappear before she deleted it. And that was the syncing. She had, while the syncing is there, sometimes I will delete messages of my iMac. And when I turn on mail, the messages are still there, and then all of a sudden they disappear.
Right.
So it is a timing issue relative to syncing.
So-
It's up to the server, then they disappear.
So my last comment is the new FGCU Renaissance Academy catalog is out. It's in the thing outside. Some of you know that I teach there. As opposed to here, I get a huge honorarium for teaching there. And I have tenure and a state pension. So, no, I'm just kidding. I'm just saying, the new catalog is out and the new classes start next month, so anybody who's interested in classes at FGCU, pick up a catalog outside. Next week is Marilyn, and the following week is Jerry, and the fourth week is an outside speaker that George has arranged. Everything is on the website, so go to the calendar and you should be able to get it. All right, thank you very much. See
You
all
have
next
my
week.
thanks, that was very good.
What?
you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.